I wanted Donald Trump to win because I do believe that he has the country's best interest at heart. And since personally I don't have a lot of hate towards him, I feel like I actually see a little bit more of the good that he does than like some other people would. Because I was trying to explain to people to give him some um, leeway for the pandemic because we've never experienced anything like this. I do think he kind of messed up in that regard. So, but I wanted Donald Trump to win, like I did in 2016.
Biden Harris, because Trump, it's not even about like straight up conservative versus liberal policy. Trump does not care about the country. He does not care about being president. He doesn't take into account any of the nuances for it. It's one thing if it was a Republican candidate like McCain, who, despite me in 2008 having philosophical differences from McCain, I would have at least respected him, and I understand that the policies he supported were from a moral basis. He truly believed that was what was best for the country and the people in it. Trump does not care about the people in the country. He cares about what's good for him and what's good for his friends who run companies and go to Mar-a-Lago. He doesn't care about the people.
Answer to that would be that I don't know if I believe if there's total mass fraud out there or it's enough to actually sway the elections. I mean, I've looked at liberal and conservative news sites for their like opinions on what is happening, and I think if they have the evidence, they should bring it forward. And conferences are not court cases, so maybe there's something that they actually do have, but until it's like at least done in a fair trial of some sort, I don't believe that there's mass voter fraud or that's going to be enough to change anything at this point. Forgot to mention the broadcasting part of it. I don't know, media. I don't know. I don't trust the mainstream media personally, so I guess that's my take on that one.
No, it didn't happen. Not to the extent that conservative media sources would have you believe, or conservative politicians would have you believe. It's just not the case. We do not have any definitive proof that large, widespread voter fraud happened. To that extent, this panic about voter fraud is generally used as a way to create voter fraud laws or voter suppression laws in which they are able to require ridiculous amounts of ID or restrict polling places or how people are allowed to vote, and in doing so tend to disproportionately affect minority groups to the point where some of these laws were brought up to Supreme Courts and deemed unconstitutional. So to that extent, the way conservative media covers it is very much a panicked, fear-inducing way.
When before Donald Trump was inaugurated, I was mad that people were already like, if not wanting him to, like asking him to fail. And it's like, I'm not going to do that to Joe Biden. Like, I think we don't have to do that. But I do think we can be unified again. I mean, personally, in general, I'm actually not that much of a political person. It's just this cycle, I guess, has been pretty intense. But yeah, I'd say that's my answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, yes, in theory. I mean, it's always a complicated question because we've never really been completely unified as a country. Every decade, every generation has its fights. Looking back to the 60s, there's civil rights. The 70s and 80s, where you have women's rights really coming to the forefront. We've never truly been like a unified country.
I mean, they're definitely passionate. They're definitely passionate about their perspective, and I'm passionate about my perspective, so I can definitely relate to that.
Candidate, no, I don't have anything nice to say about Trump. But the opposing aisle, I mean, if you're talking about Trump supporters, to an extent, the ones who just honestly don't understand the nuances of his policy and why something like that might sound good, but is harmful to, you know, most middle class and working class Americans, I don't hate those people. I think that there's an ignorance, and we need to work harder on getting people to understand political systems.
What are my hopes? I'm hoping to see some change. I mean, I don't think, you know, America is as bad as people say it is, but I definitely think that there is definitely room for improvement.
Um, I hope we become more inclusive, and I don't say that as like a, you know, the way a lot of like people say, oh, snowflakes, and you have to be okay with everything, and there has to be safe spaces. I say that more as a, people can just be themselves and live the way they live if it doesn't affect someone else in any way. Two gay men getting married doesn't affect a random person in the middle of Ohio. And, you know, they should be able to get married. That should stay, you know, in law. And to the extent that's what I mean, if it's not hurting anybody, those decisions, like being Muslim, being Jewish, being gay, um, you know, then they should have that right. That doesn't mean everyone has to support it, but understanding that that is their right, and, you know, that America was built on making sure people had these inalienable rights.